Hi guys, Jurassic Junkie here, and today we are going top shelf. Welcome to the Friday Night Rant. So yes, in the past videos we've had whiskies, we've had many things that you could class as top shelf, but nothing as top shelf as Tesco's finest bitter shandy. So first of all, let me start by saying I apologise for not doing a video last week. There was no excuse apart from it came to Saturday and I went, Friday was yesterday, shit, and kind of realised I never did a video. So today's Thursday, so I'm doing one early so I can get it up on time. So before I jump in, normally obviously I want to talk about news and stuff, and this has came up in the news, but it's kind of sent me down a path thinking that gaming may be changing over the next few years. Well, it's always changing, but I think it may be changing in a way. But anyway, let's just jump in, and it starts with EA have turned around this week and says this is how much we've earned over the last quarter and this is what it is compared to all the previous years. And for the first time ever, EA have actually earned more money from digital sales than they have from physical. And personally, I'm quite shocked that this hasn't happened already. I would have thought that EA would have earned from digital probably last year or a year before. But at last the time is here where digital is actually making more money for them than physical. So they've said obviously over half its revenue was from digital, and that would come to $2.2 billion worth of revenue in a year. But the interesting thing is they've obviously told us the stats of exactly what areas that comes from, and it breaks down to 4 areas, and I'll just quickly go through them. So at the 2.2 billion, you have $420 million that are made up just from game purchases. So instead of people buying them physically, they're buying them straight from the store digitally. On top of that, there's £340 million made in subscriptions, so that's things such as EA Access. On top of that, you've got $497 million made in just the mobile market, but none of that comes close to its £921 million, so close to £1 billion in just extra content, also known as DLC. And the thing is, obviously, this doesn't account to the physical sales of games, but just talking about digital games, the DLC is making them more money than the games themselves. Again, this is just the digital side, so they may have made a bucket load on physical sales of games. But the worrying thing is, obviously, with any company, when they do something and it generates them a lot of money, they will look at it and go, let's do more of that because it's making lots of this. And to be fair, you would expect it. A company is there to try and make money, and if DLC is making the money, they will probably make more of it. So this is a bit of a problem because obviously you would expect that it does mean we may be seeing a lot more DLC being pushed onto EA games. But before I go any further into obviously these stats, EA have come out with another piece of news, and it was saying that they want to start to look at a thing called free to start. Now we know what free to play is because we know free to play isn't free. It's free to do so much and then it's littered with microtransactions. Now free to play games, I know a lot of people hate, and I've pretty much only played 1 or 2 free-to-play games, and those ones that I've played, I've loved because they've not been jam-packed with microtransactions. They're there if you like them. They're not forced down your throat. It doesn't feel like they remove parts of the game away until you actually pay. So what I've played so far, I've enjoyed. One of them being Warframe. But that aside, EA obviously said they want to look at free-to-start. Now, there's not much more information going about exactly what free to start is, but there's some rumours going that it may be like EA Access's demos. Now, EA Access demos work slightly different to how most demos work. So, for instance, if a game comes out and it's a demo, they tend to just give you a chunk of the game. So, for instance, if it's a big sandbox game, they'll lock it down to a small part. If it's a story game, it may be once you've done the first quest, then it instantly starts. Whereas some of them may say, obviously you can have about 20 minutes to do what you want. So there's been a range of different ways to keep demos locked down. But the weird thing is with EA Access demos, they are very, very generous in the way they actually give you the game completely for free. It's yours, do what you want, and there is no rules or anything locked down. Just play it for 6 hours, and after them 6 hours, the game stops. But the good thing is, once that game has stopped, it then keeps your saved game, and then you can go out and buy it physically or digitally and continue the game. So I actually really enjoy this because most times when you play a demo, you just kind of prat about because you know it's just a small moment of that game, and then you may go purchase it later. But with the EA Access, you can actually start to play a game for 6 hours, means you can actually start on your character. If you're playing an RPG, you may go, well, I'm going to go off for a proper good old grind now, because you wouldn't want to do that on a demo and waste your time. But if you know you can transfer that save, then it's awesome. So yes, anyway, me continuing to say how good I actually think EA Access is, because I really, really do. I think it's a great price, and I love the games that are on it. So yes, if you haven't got EA Access, get it. But the point is, does this free to start mean it's going to be the 6 hour long demos? Or does it mean they're going to have something different? Now, another idea is it could actually be doing like a free to play, but actually giving you a very small part of the game, and then you pay for the extras on top of it. So for instance, it could be like Battlefield, but it would be a very small version. The basics are there, you can shoot, you can level up and whatnot, but you may only have just the one level, but then you buy extra levels. So you can start the game for free, but if you want to continue, you may have to buy extra maps. Now, if that's the case, that kind of goes down the DLC route. They might as well try and sell DLC, because the thing is, and obviously this is what the bad thing about DLC is you cannot sell it after. So that's why a lot of game companies now want to push DLC, because they can sell you that game, and especially if you buy it physically, you can then go, I'm done. But even if you buy it physically and then you buy a piece of DLC, they've got you. Because when you sell that disc, that you've still got the DLC, you cannot sell that on. So companies do want to push that DLC onto you, because it's one transaction that you cannot get out of. So that kind of makes me go, where is gaming going? Especially over the last few years, really, because gaming has changed dramatically over, I would say, the last 10 years. Because back in the day, it used to be a very solo kind of act. It was big story games, and multiplayer wasn't really bigly heard of. And then over the years, with technology getting better, the internet getting everywhere, we've started playing a lot more multiplayer games, to the point where I actually say about 80% of my time now played on consoles is multiplayer or co-op games. And I very rarely play story games. And the worst thing is, on top of it, is when I do get a story game, I will sit there, complete it in 6 hours, and always sell it. I'll never buy one digital, I'll always buy it physical, because I know I can probably only get about 6 to 10 hours out of this story game, and then it's getting sold. Which means to the developers, obviously, if I buy it first hand, brilliant, they've got some money off me, but then when I sell it second hand, everyone else that recycles that game, they will never see some money from it. Whereas when it comes down to a multiplayer game, I tend not to sell them, because I'll always keep them on the shelf just in case that day happens when somebody says, do you want to go play Titanfall for a bit, or do you want to play COD for a bit? And on top of it, I'd have to say is I've not purchased much DLC throughout my life, but the DLC that I have purchased has been mainly multiplayer. I may have bought extra maps to kind of give a game a bit more life, more than I have actually buying a extra bit of story. So for instance, Mass Effect, I really, really enjoy Mass Effect, but I didn't even buy the Mass Effect DLC. So it's a weird thing that I do. I don't really buy any DLC for even games that I love, but if I'm playing a multiplayer game, I might buy an extra map. And I say may because I don't buy much DLC anyway. But the point is, I think multiplayer is getting bigger and bigger. It's bigger money for the companies, and I do see that stories are going to get smaller. And more than anything, I think what we're going to see is games that don't need multiplayer have it bolted on. So for instance, you've got like Tomb Raider and Uncharted. They've started to have multiplayer on there, and they are bolt-ons. These are games that don't need it, but the developers are going, let's put multiplayer on there to try and get the person to keep the game for longer, because obviously some people will keep it because they're collectors, but a lot of people, when they completed it, it gets sold. But if it's multiplayer, it means you might play it for that bit longer. They may bring out some extra maps to sell to you. So it does feel like multiplayer is being bolted onto these story player games. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, all that information, but what I'm trying to say is it looks like DLC is king because you can't sell it on. It generates a hell of a lot of money. So will we start to see games try and push more DLC? Will we start to see games go, well, you can have most of the game for free, but we want you to now buy DLC because you can't sell it on, and that generates so much cash. And also, what is this free to start kind of thing that's going with EA? So we'll see over the next few months, well, maybe next few years. We don't know how quick it's going to come out, but this may change the face of gaming as well. So it is a very weird one because personally, back when I started doing the Friday Night Rants many years ago, I remember saying, oh, digital's around the corner and I don't want to do it and I want to stay physical because I want something on the shelf. And I've noticed I've brought more digital games, and on top of it I'm a part of EA Access because I actually like renting my games, which is weird. I never thought I would have liked it, but I don't mind dropping the 20 quid for the entire year, and I've got Battlefield. To Christ, I can rent it for the entire year, and they've actually thrown some DLC in as well for the price it costs to buy. And then on top of it I get Plants vs Zombies, and if you're a sports fan, Jesus Christ, you've got all your FIFAs and all that sports crap that I'm not a fan of. But yeah, I'm kind of embracing the digital era and I like it. So it's weird when this kind of news comes out, it makes you frightened and it goes, oh, DLC and this and all that lot. But so far as gaming has changed, I've kind of enjoyed the way it has changed. I know a lot of people won't, especially Joshi hates these kind of changes. But yeah, I know the idea of saying DLC, more DLC, or maybe games for free and then you have to buy the parts on top of it sounds horrible. But personally, I'm always one for change, and I'll say I'm not going to knock it until I try it, but it does sound quite scary at the same time. So that's pretty much me done actually. I'm going to chuck in just one last piece of information. There's a few more I wrote down, but I'm going to go over my 15 minutes marker, and I don't like editing long videos. So the other thing is Sony Online Entertainment, also known as SOE, have now been sold off. So before we go into it, I just want to say that SOE is a part of Sony that was created back in 1996, and the idea of this small team was going to be to create MMO subscription-based games. So obviously things like World of Warcraft. Now, as gaming has changed, as we've obviously spoke about over the last 10 minutes, a lot of games are going to the free-to-play model, and microtransactions is now king. So Sony decided to actually sell this part of the company off, and it's now been purchased by a company by the name of Columbus Nova. Now what this does mean is some of the titles that was going to be PlayStation exclusives, such as PlanetSide 2 and H1Z1, I even know that was obviously coming to the PC, but the point is it wasn't coming to Xbox. But now this division has been sold off, it's no longer controlled by Sony, means that it will be coming to the Xbox One. So already tweets have been coming out saying it's going to be great to actually work across multiple platforms now. So personally for me, I actually find this news quite exciting, especially because, I don't know if you can see down below, but there is a tiny little box there, and that is my PlayStation 4, because I'm sticking it on eBay. Sadly, I think if I only had a PlayStation I would enjoy it, but because I've got the Xbox One, all the lads play on Xbox One, and especially because the exclusives I'm mostly interested in are on the Xbox One, it's probably seen 40 to 60 hours worth of playtime in the last year and a half, and my Xbox is easily over 1,000 hours, so I just thought it's not getting no love. I might as well sell it, and especially because any time now we could see a Slim, and when the Slim comes out the price of that's going to drop down, so I thought I'm just going to sell it now. So what I'll do is I'll probably buy a Slim in 2 or 3 years and then be able to have a back catalogue of games, because at the moment there's nothing for me to play on there. But hopefully if I wait 2 or 3 years, like I did originally with the 360, and then I brought a PlayStation 3 many years later, I had a good catalogue of games to actually sit and go through. So anyway, I've kind of gone off the track, but the point is, with H1Z1 now being open to Xbox One, it is kind of good news, even though at the moment it looks fucking awful. But the point is, it will be a free game. It's going to be like Days. Days was terrible, Days was bugger, but Days was still very enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to play the awfully broken H1Z1 on my Xbox One. So, as I said now, time is 16 minutes. I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to leave you the question of the week, and that is, digital. Are you starting to embrace it? Do you rent games now? Do you buy them digitally? And more than anything, how does that compare to how you thought you would be 2 or 3 years ago? Because as I said, I didn't think I would be this much enjoying digital content, and I would have thought I would have had a big shelf full of games. And to be fair, I've only got 2 games at the moment, and I know once them 2 are completed, they're going on eBay as well, because I just like digital now. So that's me done and dusted. Fingers crossed I'll hopefully see you this time next week, and I won't forget what day of the week it is. And as always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Cheers, bye.